Autism. A funny little word. One with a very diverse history in how it's been perceived. To be clear, I am not a psychologist, nor have I been diagnosed with the autism frizzle. However, a whole lot of my family and friends are, so I have a deep respect for it. But I won't be able to talk to the in-depth nuances of autism. However, what I can talk to is how it's represented in media and how we can represent it better. Because, oh boy, the view of autism in media has not been good. You see, autism is fascinating compared to other misrepresented groups in media because the way society has viewed autism has been rather unique. With a history of being misunderstood, a lot of representations showed it as a debilitating condition, something for normal people to have to deal with. But then, to combat this ill sentiment, some people tried representing autism like a superpower, like the fucking beyond humanity. Yes, Cars is my favorite autistic character. But no matter the intentions, there's always this gross othering of autistic people. There is a degrading where media doesn't even treat them as whole-ass humans, to the point where they make them whole-ass not human. Some representations come in the form of literal robots or aliens. There seems to be this inability to accept that autistic people are just like people. However, this has begun to shift in recent years as society becomes more accepting of autism. Because it ain't no mental illness. It's just like they just got that dog in them, you know what I mean? And thus, more respectful representations are created. The notable shift being that these characters are given more narrative autonomy and are respected as human beings. So join me in dissecting the weird, gooey, slimy brains of autistic people. Let's see the pitfalls of autistic representation, as well as the recent very high highs. Hi, my name is Rad Chad, the Mad Lad, and to some of you, your dad. And just while I've got you, I've been having like a lot of trouble pressing the like and subscribe button. Can you just like quickly show me how to do that? One of the main problems that autistic representation runs into is seeing them as problems to be solved, treating them as threats to themselves or those around them. This idea is perpetuated by the shitty organization Autism Speaks, which I am morally obligated to say should spontaneously combust. There are a lot of really bad examples of this, but I don't want to harp on them too much since it's very easy to get doomer about representation. So for my first quick example of this, I have chosen Entraptor from She-Ra. Now, I will admit, I didn't see She-Ra, and have heard that for the most part, she's a pretty solid rep, even if a little stereotypical. But in a certain episode, due to her walking off too much, she is fucking leashed. Now, I shouldn't have to say this, but stripping your autistic rep's literal autonomy like this is gross. It falls in line with the idea that autistic people don't know what's good for them, like they're actual animals. But they're not animals. They just got that dog in them. But the grand majority of autistic people are fucking functional. And for those that autism severely affects their lives, in my opinion, you shouldn't leash them. But hey, don't worry, not all reps of autism are treated like animals. Sometimes they're treated like ascended beings. To combat the negative stigma around autism, there began a movement that followed the idea that autism was a superpower. While not as harmful as treating autistic people like problems, it does make pretty unachievable expectations for autistic people. Not every autistic person is going to be a chess savant. Some of them get like the superpower of being able to name every single character from Game of Thrones and scientifically analyzing all their penis sizes. While it's true autistic people do, for instance, tend to do well academically, it's naive to present it as a wholly positive thing. To ignore how it can also negatively impact their life or treat them as somehow superhuman woefully fails at representing the condition authentically and may give people false expectations of autistic people. With that, Predator 2018. This has to be probably the most dumbest and funniest representation of autism. So Rory is a kid with autism. Due to his autism, he is very smart, able to put all the chess pieces on a board back into the spots that they were knocked over from. Very real and cool autistic power. Oh, And also his autism gives him the power to use alien technology. Also, the Predator kidnaps Rory because it sees him as the next stage of human evolution due to, specifically, his autism. Sorry, my autistic home slices. It seems you are fated to be abducted by alien hunks. Maybe you should have been less big smarts and more dum-dums like me. Do I need to explain why this is fucking stupid? No. Autistic people do not innately get the power to use alien technology. That'd be unfair. Leave some pussy for the rest of us. Sheesh. Unfortunately, it is shocking how common these two types of autistic representation are, but thanks to objectively better media, we have much more respectful and more authentic representations of autism. Representations that clearly not only inform about the condition, but can actually be related to by people on the spectrum. For you see, these two characters show the power narrative roles can give to characters and of representing them not only as autistic individuals, but a goddamn fucking human. Let's get introduced to these two fine ladies, starting with the ever-tired and ever-scrunkly mad scientist. Reagan. The mad scientist who can create any gadget or robot for any situation and maybe, this chance, bent on world domination. The only thing getting in the way of her dreams of conquering the globe is that she is a bit of a hot mess. And also fucking Netflix! But we are not talking about that. We are talking about what we lost, which is this autistic queen. Now, she is not exactly confirmed to be autistic, however, it's really obvious. A curious thing I found is when an autistic character is explicitly said to be autistic, they usually turn out to be more of a caricature, like Rory. But when it's not explicitly stated, it usually actually represents the condition more authentically, like it's just another attribute to the character. This usually happens because typically when explicitly autistic, the creator is creating an autistic character, instead of what it should be, which is a character who happens to be autistic. But back to Reagan. The real smoking gun for me with her is the episode where she gets so overwhelmed with having to hug people that she creates a robot to hug for her. For some autistic people, physical contact can be very stressing. Also, real quick as an aside, please keep in mind that whenever I point out an autistic trait, it is not universal to everyone's experience with autism. Autism is a wildly varying condition. It's literally called the autistic spectrum. So I do not mean to overgeneralize, only that the traits I point out here correlate with having autism, but are not experienced by all autistic people. There are more subtle autistic elements to Reagan's character.
I am reacting appropriately to the thing you just said. Small talk acknowledged.
However, in line with these creators making a character who is autistic instead of an autistic character, Reagan's autistic elements are neither a focus nor an ignored element. They are more just a part of her. My favorite example of this is her friendship with Brett. In line with autistic traits, Reagan struggles interpersonally. She can come off as rude or neglectful. However, she's also a realist and straightforward. She says a problem exactly how it is and doesn't tiptoe around it. Meanwhile, Brett is incredibly good interpersonally. He is literally incapable of not getting along with people. However, he is tied down by his need to please everyone. He can forego the reality of a situation if it makes people feel better. Well, at first, these two diametrically opposed personalities clash. Once they have warmed up to each other, they become an amazing dynamic duo. Brett makes everyone happy, while Reagan keeps him on track. This is a perfect way to represent autistic traits in media. They are neither an entirely negative nor positive thing. They are merely just an element of a person. Reagan has things that she struggles with, but also things that she's amazing at. She is not perfect on her own, but neither does she need someone else to fix her. It's her collaborating and connecting with others that make her an amazing person. Man, this is such a great show. I really sure hope it doesn't get fucking cancelled! Oh, what? Frustration is something autistic people feel when something frustrates them. Riveting observations, I know. Asa Mitaka from Chainsawman fame. The smelly femcel herself, with an imaginary friend who wants to turn all of Asa's friends, family, items, and pets into swords because grrr, Chainsaw Man stinky. While Asa isn't outright confirmed to be autistic, similar to Reagan, there are elements of her character that heavily imply that she is most likely on the spectrum. She's also seen wearing the funny autistic hat, which is absolute confirmation that she is in fact autistic. The key scene for me, and others, was when she had her aquarium date with toothy boy Dennis. Trying to make the perfect date possible, Asa did the very rational act of planning out the exact route they'd take and researching the Wikipedia articles of every single fish. Unfortunately, her plan was thwarted by autism's arch nemesis, ADHD, as Dennis wanted to go look at a penguin. How fucking dare he? Although this may sound like a hyperfixation moment, it isn't that Asa fucking loves fish. Otherwise, she would be wearing the fish fear me hat. But she's not. She's wearing the autism hat. What she really likes is planning, thinking that if she has everything laid out perfectly, it will work out in her favor. This is another autistic trait. However, while this is an autistic trait, when querying my audience, the truly relatable moment of Asa's character came right after: frustration. You see, after the whole debacle, Asa feels incredibly frustrated. She can't work out where she went wrong. In her mind, she did everything right. It's like following a cake recipe to the T, and it comes out a boiling mess. Wouldn't you feel confused and annoyed? And with frustration comes guilt, comes blame. Not being able to understand where you went wrong just by being yourself. This is what it means to be good representation. To place you in the shoes of a character, to get a better insight of their thoughts, emotions, and rationality, to truly relate to them. And this is strongly afforded because these are main characters. You see, the reason why I chose Reagan and Asa isn't just because they're good reps, but it's also because of their narrative autonomy. A lot of autistic reps are delegated to side character roles, but as a side character, we only primarily see how the autistic traits interact with others on a surface level. But being the main character, we follow their emotions more closely. We actually see their thought process, their struggles. What they want is not just humanizing, but also offers us a glimpse into what it's like to live with these conditions, which increases empathy from people without these conditions. Having been able to talk to a lot of different people from a lot of different underrepresented backgrounds, the key thing they usually want represented are those frustrations. Not the type of, oh, woe is me, I'm a minority and I get bricks thrown at me as I walk down the street, but the smaller things that add up, but which people not a part of that group can't see. Representing this not only allows these frustrations to be seen, not only allows people of these groups to work through the emotions that coincide with them, but allows people not in these groups to get a glimpse at what they otherwise wouldn't be able to see. And I think that's very powerful. Now, that being said, autistic people fuck. You may be curious as to why I drew these two ladies rather promiscuously in the thumbnail of this video. Going back to that perception of autism being seen as a mental illness, generally autistic characters weren't allowed any form of sexual freedom because it would be perceived as exploitative. However, as I have outlined, autistic people are normal chill, and they do in fact fuck. Therefore, affording autistic characters the ability to fuck shows respect for their autonomy. We get a glimpse into the love lives of both Asa and Reagan, and like with other aspects of these characters, the autistic traits affect their relationship, yet it's not a focus. But for instance, the aforementioned scene between Asa and Denji, her trying to force Denji to do something her way, did strain their first date, but it was only after they were able to have a more down-to-earth talk that they began to bond more. Because with having a love life, we're also allowed to see these characters have mature relationships, where communication and growing is key. Because while we can point out autistic traits and how they may make someone struggle, we have to not ignore that autistic people are autonomous and are able to grow. And I don't mean to grow by overcoming their autism, but cultivating relationships of understanding and getting a better understanding of themselves so they can navigate complicated interpersonal situations. Like fucking. And god bloody damn it, Inside Job does this masterfully. In season 1, we see Reagan get into interesting relationships, but then she tries to solve them in very autistic ways, like creating a robot clone of the person she likes so she doesn't have to deal with the direct consequences of actually being in a relationship, or faking her death to get out of an overbearing relationship with a super spy. Exact things known to happen to autistic people. And the relationship between Ron and Reagan, where they understand each other's quirks and get closer, but their ambitions cause struggles, and it's also human and amazing. And seriously, why the fuck was this show cancelled? There's a very simple way to summarize how you make a good autistic rep. You just treat them like a fucking human, but don't ignore the fact that they're autistic. Just give them normal experiences, but let them have that dog inside them. The most important key aspect about both of these characters are that they aren't just autistic. In fact, focusing on that is disingenuous to the depth of these characters. They have stories and ambitions, goals and aspirations that go so much deeper than that. But the fact that these two are the main characters force them to have a greater level of depth. Their experiences reinforce their autonomy. But in subtle ways, we can see how their autistic traits influence their life. But no one in universe points it out and goes, "You are autistic." They're just people, dealing with shit, as all people do. This is authentic representation. Their whole identity shouldn't be the one trait, but neither should those traits be ignored. They should be afforded depth as well as authentically represent the experiences within these groups. And for a group with a horrific history of being misrepresented, we should sing highly the praises of Reagan and Asa, for they truly did have that dog in them.
What the dog?